The invasion of Malibu. The sun began its slow descent over the hills of Beverly, casting long and golden shadows across the mansion of the Clampett family. Inside the grand house, a sense of military urgency had taken hold, though its origin was based on a monumental misunderstanding. Granny stood in the center of the room, her eyes sharp and her spirit undaunted as she prepared for what she believed to be a looming battle. She declared with firm resolve that she was ready to fight, urging the others to join her in defending their new home. Jethro, always eager for action but often confused by the details, stood by her side. He announced that he was going down to the beach to help fight off the Grunyons. This name, strange and unfamiliar to their ears, had been planted in their minds by Mr. Drysdale. When Granny questioned who these Grunyons were, Jed admitted that he did not know for certain. However, he explained that Mr. Drysdale had warned them that an invasion was coming from the ocean that very night to take over the state of California. The tension rose as Granny surveyed their preparations. She looked at Jethro and asked where his weapon was, only to find him holding a simple slingshot. She scoffed at the idea, asserting that one could not bring down a fierce enemy with such a small tool. Jethro, stubborn in his confidence, insisted that he could. Their disagreement escalated into a rapid exchange of words, with each of them repeating their stance over and over until Jed finally intervened. He called for a stop to the bickering, reminding them that they must stand together as a family to face the coming threat. Jed shared the source of their alarm. Mr. Drysdale had shown them a newspaper headline that predicted a huge invasion of Grunyon that night. The banker had even appeared in a full uniform, carrying a gun, and looking ready for combat. To the honest folks from the hills, if a man of his standing was prepared to fight, the situation must be truly desperate. Meanwhile, in the quiet halls of the bank, Mr. Drysdale was congratulating himself on his deception. He boasted to Miss Thompson about his brilliant performance, convinced that he had successfully frightened the Clampetts into believing a military crisis was at hand. When Miss Thompson pointed out that Grunyon were merely small fish, Mr. Drysdale dismissed her concerns. His goal was not to protect the coast, but to keep a young man named Mark Templeton in the Navy. He feared that if Mark left the service, he would persuade Jed Clampett to spend $48 million on oceanography research, a prospect that horrified the profit-minded banker. Back at the mansion, the preparations continued with vigor. Jethro was ordered to load the truck, while Jed prepared a flag to fly at the front of their vehicle, hoping it would inspire the people of California. Granny insisted on bringing her large cooking kettle and plenty of food from the kitchen, imagining a long siege where they might have to live off the land like historical raiders. As they were about to depart, a strange vehicle approached. It was a small, open car designed for the sand, driven by their friend Miss Jane Hathaway. She informed them that her own car had been taken away and that she was heading to the beach in this dune buggy. When she mentioned she was going to pursue the elusive Grunyon, the Clampetts were impressed by her bravery. They believed she was going alone to face the invaders at the south end of Malibu. The family eventually arrived at a lonely stretch of beach, far from the crowds. They immediately began to dig in, building a small fortification in the sand. Jed used a telescope to scout the horizon, and it was not long before he spotted something in the water. He saw figures balancing on flatboards, riding the waves toward the shore. He concluded that these must be the scouts of the Grunyon army, appearing half-frozen and poorly dressed for a battle. Miss Jane appeared at their campsite, and through their conversation, the misunderstanding deepened. She explained that the Grunyon were small, defenseless, and could be captured by hand. She mentioned that many people took them home, and that they were delicious when fried, noting that it took at least 12 of them to make a meal. The Clampetts, still thinking the Grunyon were people from a far-off island, were horrified by the idea of such small enemies and even more confused by the culinary suggestions. The sun finally set, and the true invasion began. Young surfers began to catch the waves, unaware that they were being watched by the vigilant hillbillies. Ellie Mae, the strongest and most athletic of the group, was the first to act. She rushed down to the water and returned to the campfire with a young man in tow. He was a surfer, carrying a surfboard, but to the Clampetts, he was a genuine Grunyon from the island of Grun. The young man was cold and hungry, and he quickly realized that his best chance for a meal was to play along with the strange family. He surrendered unconditionally. Granny, moved by his scrawny appearance, offered him a warm coat and a plate of food. Soon, Jethro returned with a young woman he had also captured on the beach. Both of the newcomers were delighted by the abundance of food, especially the chicken and the gravy, which they described with the slang of the time as groovy. Granny and Jed watched as the two young people ate heartily. They felt a sense of pity for the poor invaders who seemed to have no women on their home island and no skill in sailing their tiny boats. Despite the supposed war, the spirit of hospitality won the day. The Clampets sat by the fire, sharing their meal and their warmth with their prisoners, proving that even a perceived invasion could be settled with a kind heart and a hot plate of home-cooked food. The night ended not with a battle, but with the peaceful sound of the waves and the quiet laughter of a family that was always ready to help a stranger in need.